My name is Natalie Cantrell. I am a medical device account manager here in Louisiana. I am the mother/stepmother of 5 beautiful children. I met my loving husband at the job. We've been married for about 2 years. We have 2 dogs, and that's it. Back in October of 2012, that's when I remember deciding that I needed to give my heart to Jesus. Born and raised Catholic, went to Catholic school my entire life, never ever had a relationship with God, didn't even know that that's what it was supposed to be about. And in October decided that I needed to make a change. Didn't know at the time God was preparing me for probably one of the most difficult times of my life. In March or February of the following year, my husband at the time and I separated. Wasn't pretty. It was very difficult. I was now the single mom of 2 kids in private school with cars and insurance, and everything fell on me. Anybody going through a divorce, it's probably the worst period of your life. You feel so out of control. You feel like you don't know what tomorrow can bring. I was worried about my kids. Was I going to be able to afford college? Was I going to be able to afford Carlo's car note? Was I going to have to tell him that he would have to get rid of his vehicle? So it was a lot all the time. Something I started praying about was trust, and I kind of felt bad praying for money, but I just needed some security. If anybody was telling the story, it would be hard to believe, but I really had a sense of it's all going to be okay, financially, emotionally, physically. It's funny, my income dropped to one person, yet I was able to save. It all worked out, and there was a sense of peace about it. I worry naturally about everything, and during this time, things that normally you should be worrying about, I just really had a sense of this is where I'm supposed to be, and it's all going to be okay. My current husband and I at the time were dating, and I thought he was crazy. He tithed regularly, and I just thought that was nuts. And so he encouraged me to start to do a little bit of investigation work on my own about it. And so I called up Pastor Doug. I asked him point blank, tell me about this, help me understand this. So he said, Natalie, don't do it for me, don't do it for the church, don't do it for any other reason except for that's what God tells you to do. So Doug, very honestly said, whether you choose to do 10%, 1%, 2%, no percent, give to Cornerstone or any other charity or church, that's completely between you and God. And that stuck out because a lot of times, and forgive me for saying, you would think that it's all about padding, the church's pockets or just making the church rich. And by far that wasn't the case at all. Doug was in fact telling me, if you don't feel like God's telling you to do it, don't do it. And that was monumental to me. I immediately started tithing. So reminiscing on what I've been through and how God had my hand, how that helps future endeavors is it reminds me, because we're all going to get in a rut. We're all going to question and feel that uneasiness in the gut of your stomach about how is this going to turn out. And if I didn't have this concrete relationship with God, I'd be a mess. But I get grounded when I remember where God has already taken me through and how peaceful when I let go, throwing it up, throwing a towel in, you got me, you wanted it, here's all my mess. When I do that is when it gets so much easier. But when you remember where you've been and what He's gotten you through already and check yourself, that's when it all seems to be calm and okay. Things started happening right away. I would overpay a medical bill, and 6 months later I'd get this check in the mail. I'm like, oh, just when you need it. When Adam and I were looking to buy a house together, and started praying about it a whole bunch, and we found this house that was perfect, had the right amount of bedrooms, it had the right amount of space, it had the right location. It was just, it felt like it was supposed to be for us, but it was a little bit more than what our budget allowed for. And in order to stay in our budget, we had to put down 20%. I had stock options for work that I knew we were going to cash out to use a down payment, and the amount of stocks that I was going to cash out wasn't going to cover that. And so I remember Adam and I praying about it, and we sat back and we said, what's meant to be is meant to be. So I had my Fidelity account open, Merrill Lynch account open, where I was going to exercise the stocks. And I had tithed that day, that morning. I had tithed on my regular paycheck, and literally sent the tithe over the Cornerstone, do it online, clicked over to the Fidelity and exercised the stock. And when I did, I noticed that there was some stock options that I had forgotten about. It was given to me back in 2010 when I'd started this position, and I totally forgot that they were mine to be exercised. And the expiration date was within like 6 months of when we were trying to buy this house. And the amount that cashed out at was exactly the amount we needed to have a 20% down payment on the home that we own now. So the moral of the story, I guess, is once again, God was working in the background when, I was a nervous wreck. It's not easy for me to be able to say, it's all going to work out. It's God's plan, and God still does it regardless. And it's kind of cliche, but I actually have it permanently written somewhere, and it's something that I live by. But if you just breathe and let God, it'll all be okay.